You're dead to me, Tara. This is my house now. Candace's icy words cut through me as she towered over my crumpled form, blood trickling from the gash on my head where she had smashed the crystal vase. It had all started so innocently when Derek and I got married 5 years ago. We were hopelessly in love, and I couldn't have been happier starting our life together. But Candace made it her twisted mission to drive a wedge between us from day one. "She's just jealous because you're so young and beautiful," Derek would say, brushing off his older sister's constant put-downs and snide remarks. I should have taken it as a warning sign of the hell to come. At first, it was little digs about my cooking or how I kept the house. Then it escalated to her dropping not-so-subtle hints that I didn't deserve Derek or his money. The more I tried to make peace, the nastier she became. "You're just a gold digger looking for a free ride," she spat during one of her rages when Derek wasn't around. "My brother is too good for you." Derek refused to see Candace's true colors no matter how much evidence I showed him of her manipulation. She was his precious big sister who could do no wrong in his eyes. I don't know if it was guilt over being the favorite child or just pure brainwashing, but he always took her side. Things came to a head when I discovered bank statements showing Candace had been slowly siphoning money from their inheritance after their parents died. I finally had proof of her conniving ways, but Derek just blew up at me for prying into family matters. "How dare you accuse my sister of something like that?" he shouted, his face turning beet red. "You're the one with the problem, always looking for reasons to hate her." That's when Candace struck, seizing her chance to play the innocent victim while I was the scorned villain. The vase came out of nowhere, caving the side of my skull before I could react. As I crumpled to the floor, her shadow loomed over me with those chilling parting words. I lay there in a daze, struggling to stay conscious while Candace ranted and raved about how she would finally get what she deserved. My life with Derek. The love of my life just stood there like a coward, unable to lift a finger against his twisted sister. That's when I knew my marriage was beyond saving. But I'll be damned if I'd let that psychopath take everything I had while getting away with it. I should have seen the signs earlier, but I was too blinded by love and Candace's mastery of manipulation. Derek's older sister had been scheming to turn him against me from the moment we got married. "Oh, Tara, this pot roast is a bit dry, don't you think?" Candace would say with a saccharine smile during one of her weekly dinner visits. "You really need to keep an eye on things in the kitchen." Derek would just chuckle and wave it off. "Candace is just teasing. It's fine, honey." But it was a pattern. She'd mock my homemaking skills, my appearance, how I spent money, anything to undermine me and make me seem inadequate as Derek's wife, and he ate it up, his sister's poisonous words slowly turning his adoring gaze into one of doubt and disdain. "Don't you think that dress is a bit revealing?" he started saying when we went out. "My sister's right. You could stand to be a little more modest." The emotional abuse only escalated as the years rolled by. Candace would sweep in like a tornado, leaving chaos and misery in her wake with every visit. Derek increasingly took her side, berating me for being oversensitive whenever I called out her cruelty. "She's my sister, Tara. Blood," he'd rage, his 6'3" frame towering over me. "You need to learn to accept her." Meanwhile, Candace played the victim, batting her eyes innocently whenever I confronted her. "I'm just trying to help, that's all. You're always so defensive for no reason." I felt trapped, like the walls were closing in with no escape. My adoring husband had become Candace's enabler, allowing her to treat me like dirt in my own home. I knew I had to find proof of her true sinister nature before it was too late. That proof came when I discovered bank statements showing Candace had been slowly siphoning money from the inheritance she shared with Derek after their parents died. I couldn't believe my eyes. This went far beyond her usual mind games. She was outright stealing from her own brother. "Look at this." I desperately showed the statements to Derek. "Your precious sister has been robbing you blind." His face turned beet red with rage, but not at the betrayal I'd uncovered. "How dare you go snooping through my private financial records? What gives you the right?" "Are you serious?" I cried out, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. "She's been taking your money for years and you're attacking me?" That's when Candace played her most brilliant card. rushing into the room with crocodile tears glistening in her eyes. "Derek, I had no choice," she blubbered, pulling him into an embrace. "The medical bills from Mom's cancer treatments, the nursing home fees for Dad, I've been drowning in debt from taking care of them. I didn't want to worry you." Hook, line and sinker. Just like that, the vile leech had turned the tables, positioning herself as the martyr making sacrifices for family. Derek pulled away from my grasp, disgust etched on his face. "See what you've done, Tara. How could you put my sister through this after everything she's done for us?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. Candace just smirked at me, having won yet another twisted victory. In that moment, I realized I was truly alone in this nightmare, and that gave me a reckless determination to bring my tormentor down, no matter what it took. The tension in the house was thicker than fog after Candace's latest manipulative stunt. Derek could barely look me in the eye, still seething over my betrayal of digging into his finances and calling out his precious sister's lies. "How could you do this to me, Tara?" he seethed over the dinner table, pushing his plate away. "Accusing Candace of stealing from her own family? She sacrificed everything for us." I opened my mouth to protest, but he raised his hand to silence me. "Don't. I don't want to hear another word against her. My sister is the only one I can really trust." The message was clear. I was the enemy now for daring to disrupt Candace's crocodile tear narrative about being buried in debt from taking care of their parents. Derek had fully drunk her Kool-Aid. I should have known then that there was no saving my marriage, but some deluded part of me still clung to hope. I decided to make one last effort to get through to Derek and expose his sister's depravity. A few nights later, Candace swept in for another of her family dinner visits, primped and preening in a gaudy low-cut top that seemed designed to taunt me. Derek and I could barely get 2 words out before she was running her mouth as usual. Well, if it isn't the little wife trying so hard to keep up appearances," she sneered as I set the table. "That shirt looks a bit tight, doesn't it, dear? Trying to catch someone's eye besides my brother's?" I felt my face burn with humiliation, but I refused to take her bait this time. "Hello, Candace. Lovely to see you, too." She arched an overplucked eyebrow at my calm tone. "What, no snide remarks today? Don't tell me you finally learned some class." "That's enough, Candace," Derek barked, finally growing a spine. "Leave her alone?" I felt a rush of gratitude. He was finally defending me. But Candace just tutted and shook her head slowly. "Derek, you're too blind to see what a disrespectful, ungrateful shrew she is. Always mouthing off. No wonder you can't control her. If I were you, I would have put that little tramp in her place a long time ago." That's when hell broke loose. "You self-righteous bitch!" I exploded, sending a glass of wine crashing to the floor. I should have known you'd never let up with your vicious, toxic behavior." Candace recoiled in mock horror. "Why, I never, Derek! Derek, did you hear what she just called me?" Derek's face was thunderous. "You watch your mouth, Tara. That's my sister you're talking to." I rounded on him, years of anger and resentment boiling over. "Are you kidding me right now? She's the one who came in here slinging insults from the second she walked through that door. Why are you making excuses for her?" "Because she's my family," he roared, spit flying from his mouth. "Blood is thicker than water, in case you've forgotten." "Oh yes, let's talk about family," I shot back, seeing red. "Like how she's been stealing money from your inheritance for years? Or did you just conveniently forget about those bank statements I showed you?" Candace gasped, putting a delicate hand to her chest. "Derek, you didn't tell me she was still going on about that ridiculous accusation. How dare you keep dredging up lies about me?" Derek looked like he'd been slapped, the vein in his neck bulging. He stepped towards me, fists clenched, and for a terrifying moment I thought he was going to strike me. "Get out," he said in a low, trembling voice. "Get out of my house right now before I do something I'll regret." I stared at him in disbelief as Candace smirked behind his back. This was really it. My marriage was over, and she had won. But I didn't leave. Not yet. "You want me out so bad," I shouted, feeling reckless. "Fine, I'm gone, but not before everyone knows what a psychopathic, money-grubbing snake your sister really is." I stormed out of the house that night, tears of rage and despair stinging my eyes. Derek had made his choice loud and clear. His poisonous sister would always come before me, no matter how much hell she put me through. Where could I even go? I had given up my career, my friends, my entire life to be Derek's wife. Now I was out on the street with nothing, all because I dared to defy his deranged beloved Candace. There was only one person I could turn to, my best friend Jill. I broke down sobbing when she opened her door, unleashing the torrent of emotions I had been bottling up for years. "That evil bitch has ruined everything," I wailed as Jill ushered me inside. "Derek is so brainwashed, he'll never see her for the manipulative monster she truly is." Jill wrapped me in a tight hug, letting me cry it all out. When I finally regained my composure, she looked me square in the eye with grim determination. "Enough is enough, Tara. You can't let Candace just walk all over you like this. It's time to fight back." I shook my head despondently. "Against her? You don't know the half of what I've been through. She's got Derek so wrapped around her finger, he'll never believe a word I say about her true nature." "Then we need evidence," Jill stated firmly. "Proof that she's the conniving psychopath you say she is. Once we have that, we can bring her down for good." An ember of hope flickered in my chest. The bank statements showing her stealing from their inheritance. Those were just the tip of the iceberg. There has to be more we can find to expose her. Jill nodded grimly. "We start digging first thing tomorrow morning. I'm not letting my best friend's life be destroyed by this witch." Over the next few days, Jill and I formed a plan to infiltrate Derek's home and gather any information that could take Candace down for good. With her working as a realtor, it was easy for Jill to make a copy of the house keys and scope out when Derek was at work. "Keep your eyes peeled for anything suspicious," she instructed as we slipped into the house. "Emails, letters, documents, it all could be the key to exposing her." I rifled through Derek's office with trembling hands, my heart pounding. If Candace found out what we were doing, I shuddered to think of the consequences. But then a hidden file caught my eye, bank statements and legal documents from several years ago. As I flipped through the pages, I felt the blood drain from my face. "Jill, you need to see this," I said in a shaky voice. The documents confirmed my worst fears. Candace had been under investigation for allegedly attempting to murder her own husband several years earlier. There were transcripts of witnesses claiming she had been siphoning money from his accounts and trying to pressure him into changing his will. Then he had died suddenly in a suspicious car accident, with the police unable to prove foul play. Candace had inherited everything, and the case had gone cold. "Oh my God," Jill whispered, hand over her mouth. "Are you telling me this psycho actually killed her husband for his money?" I nodded slowly, feeling numb. "And she's been doing the exact same thing to Derek this whole time. That's why she was so hell-bent on turning him against me. I was the one obstacle keeping her from my husband's inheritance." Jill's eyes hardened to steel. "We have everything we need now. It's time to make that evil bitch pay for what she's done, once and for all." I felt a dark sense of resolve overtake me, pushing away the fear and doubt. Candace's reign of terror was finally going to come crashing down around her. And this time, there would be no more playing the victim. The evidence of Candace's murderous past stunned me into silence. This went far beyond her usual mind games and manipulation. She was an outright psychopath who had likely killed for money before. "We need to take this to the police right away," Jill stated, her face pale. "Who knows what that nutjob is capable of if she's gotten away with murder once already?" I nodded numbly, still reeling from the bombshell revelation. Part of me had always suspected Candace was unhinged, but proof that she was an actual killer took things to a whole new level of depravity. "You don't understand," I said hollowly. "Derek will never believe any of this, no matter what we show him. He's too deep under her spell." Jill set her jaw grimly. "Then we make sure she goes away for good, with or without his cooperation. This has gone far enough. It's time that psycho faced some real consequences." Over the next few days, we pored over the files, building an airtight case to present to the authorities. Bank statements, witness testimonies, even phone records indicating Candace's husband had been trying to escape her control in the months before his accident. It was all finally adding up to the truth. The thing that chilled me to the bone the most were the photos from the crime scene. a crumpled car in a ditch, the body extricated and zipped into a black bag on the roadside. I had to look away, feeling sick at the realization that Candace was likely responsible for such a grisly end just to inherit her husband's wealth. "You know she's going to try the same thing with Derek once I'm out of the picture," I told Jill, my voice shaking. "First, it was his inheritance from your parents, and now she wants everything. The house, the cars, the whole lifestyle I built with him. She'll stop at nothing." Jill gave me a determined look. "Not if we stop her first. We've got everything we need to put this monster away for the rest of her life, where she can't hurt anyone else." The next day, we took the file to the police precinct and requested to meet with a detective. I could barely speak as I handed over the evidence, recounting Candace's escalating campaign of abuse and violence against me. The grizzled cop flipped through the documents, his eyes widening. "You're telling me this woman got away with murdering her husband for his money years ago? And now she's trying to do the same thing to her own brother?" I nodded miserably. "Derek is under her total control. She's completely brainwashed him into taking her side over me, no matter what horrible things she does. If you don't stop her reign of terror, I'm afraid of what she's capable of." The detective's jaw tightened grimly. "Don't you worry, ma'am. We've got more than enough here to lock this Candace up and throw away the key. Trying to kill her own flesh and blood for inheritance money? That's a new low, even for my line of work." He paused, seeming to study me closely. "I've got to ask, how'd you manage to get all this evidence on her? This is one hell of a case file you've put together." I felt a rush of adrenaline as the weight of everything came crashing down. This was it, the beginning of the end for Candace's twisted reign. No more games, no more manipulation or fake tears. Just cold, hard consequences for her unforgivable actions. "Let's just say I've had a lot of practice seeing through that snake's lies," I replied tightly. "It's time she finally paid for what she's done to my family." As they led me out, I could have sworn I saw the cop giving me the faintest of nods, a look of respect on his weathered face. In that moment, I realized I had been underestimated as a mere victim for far too long. Now the merciless former predator was about to become the prey, and this time I would be the one showing no mercy. I should have known Candace wouldn't go down without one final vicious fight. The day after Jill and I took our damning evidence to the police, the demon herself was waiting when I returned to my friend's apartment. Well, if it isn't the ungrateful little schemer," she sneered as I froze in the doorway. Candace rose from the couch, hands on her hips and eyes glittering with malice. "I knew you were plotting something behind my back." My heart pounded, but I refused to show fear. "Get out of here, Candace. It's over. The police know everything about what you did." Rather than looking scared, she threw back her head and laughed, a cold, cruel sound that made my blood run cold. "You stupid girl. Did you really think a few measly documents would be enough to take me down? I'm afraid you've severely underestimated me." Before I could react, Candace lunged forward and grabbed a heavy crystal vase from the end table, raising it high above her head. "This is for sticking your nose where it didn't belong." The vase came crashing down with sickening force, exploding against the back of my skull in a blossom of blinding pain and darkness. I collapsed to the floor in a boneless heap, warm blood gushing from the gash as Candace towered over me. "You're dead, you hear me?" she snarled, spittle flying from her twisted mouth. "This is my house now, my life. I'll make Derek see that you're nothing but a lying, vindictive snake." I struggled to speak, to move, but unconsciousness was rapidly overtaking me. The last thing I saw was Derek himself appearing in the doorway, his expression one of shock and horror. "Candace? What have you done?" Then everything faded to black. I drifted in and out of awareness, snatches of voices and movement all around me. At one point, I could have sworn I heard the wail of sirens in the distance. When I finally came to, I was in a hospital bed, Jill sitting vigil beside me with a haunted look on her face. My head throbbed with white-hot agony, and I could feel the thick bandages wrapped around my skull. "Oh, Tara, thank God," Jill whispered, grabbing my hand. "I thought I was going to lose you there for a while." Flashes of memory came flooding back. Candace's twisted sneer, the vase, the blinding pain and blood. I tried to sit up but immediately regretted it, crying out, That psychotic bitch, she really did try to kill me, I rasped, my voice a dry croak. Where is she? Did they arrest her? Jill looked away guiltily. The police took her into custody after I called 911. But, Tara, you're not going to believe this. Derek refused to press charges against her. He says it was just a misunderstanding and that you two fought over him. White-hot rage flooded my system, adrenaline temporarily overriding the pain. I ripped the IV from my arm and tried to swing my legs over the side of the bed. That sniveling coward. After everything she did, he's still defending her? I seethed through gritted teeth. I can't believe this. Jill put a hand on my shoulder, gently restraining me. Tara, please, you're in no condition to go storming off right now. Just take a breath, okay? I wanted to rage and scream, but the stark reality was sinking in. My husband was so twisted by Candace's manipulation that he would literally let her try to kill me and still make excuses for her depravity. Our marriage was broken beyond repair. You're right, I said, sinking back against the pillows in defeat. It's over. Derek is too far gone. He'll never see that evil bitch for what she really is. But even as I spoke the words, a strange sense of calm washed over me. Because in that moment, I realized my battle was no longer with Derek at all. It was with the venomous snake, Candace herself, and this time I would stop at nothing to make sure she faced the consequences she deserved. No more games, no more crying or pleading for my husband to see reason. It was time to go for the jugular, before his deranged sister destroyed anyone else's life like she almost did mine. I turned to Jill, my eyes hardening with resolve. We need to get out of here. I have a plan to put Candace away for good, where she can never hurt another soul. Are you with me? Jill didn't hesitate, giving a grim nod of determination. You know I am. Let's make that psycho finally pay for her crimes once and for all. The hospital room was eerily silent as Derek stepped through the door, his expression unreadable. I tensed instinctively, my hand tightening around Jill's in a silent plea for support. What are you doing here? I asked flatly, unable to mask the bitterness in my voice. Come to make more excuses for your deranged sister? Derek flinched slightly at my tone, but didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he pulled up a chair and sank into it heavily, running a hand over his face. Tara, I don't even know where to begin, he said quietly. What Candace did was unforgivable. Trying to kill you like that in cold blood? He trailed off, shaking his head slowly. Despite the gravity of his words, I felt no satisfaction or relief, only a weary sense of resignation and simmering anger. Save your breath, I cut him off coldly. Your sister is a psychopathic murderer, and you knew it on some level this entire time. You just chose to ignore the ugly truth about her because she was your precious blood relative. Derek opened his mouth to protest, but I barreled on, years of resentment bubbling over. Don't even try to deny it. I showed you all the evidence of her stealing from your inheritance, trying to manipulate you into cutting me out. I had those files proving she killed her own husband for his money. But you just couldn't be bothered to see what was right in front of your face. You're right. The admission was so soft, I almost missed it. Derek's shoulders slumped in defeat. You're absolutely right, Tara. I've been so deep in denial about Candace's true nature that I let her take over my life. I let her abuse you, manipulate me, and turn me against my own wife. He looked up at me then, his eyes haunted. I will regret that for the rest of my days. You didn't deserve any of the hell she put you through. I was just too blind and weak to stand up to her twisted mind games. White-hot anger flared in my chest, and I struggled to keep my voice even. So what? I'm just supposed to forgive and forget now? Let you off the hook because you've suddenly realized what a monster your sister is? No. Derek shook his head slowly. No, I don't deserve forgiveness or another chance. Not after what I allowed to happen under my own roof. I came here to tell you that it's over between us. The words hit me like a physical blow, despite the fact that I'd already accepted our marriage was broken beyond repair. I think some delusional part of me still clung to the hope that Derek would make things right once Candace's evil was exposed. I'm filing for divorce immediately, he continued, unable to meet my eyes, and I'm not going to contest you for anything. The house, the assets, it's all yours. Candace's poisonous influence cost me the best thing I ever had. This is the least I can do. I opened my mouth, but no words would come. Part of me wanted to rage, to hurl vicious recriminations at this pathetic shadow of the man I once loved. But the bigger part of me felt utterly hollow, devoid of any satisfaction or closure from his surrender. Jill spoke up, her voice laced with contempt. "So that's it, then? You just slink away with your tail between your legs while your demented sister rots in jail? Typical." "I wish there was more I could do or say," Derek said heavily. "But we both know there's no coming back from the unforgivable things I allowed to happen. You deserve so much better, Tara." With that, he slowly rose and turned to leave. At the doorway, he paused and looked back at me one final time. "For what it's worth, I am sorry, truly sorry, for everything." Then he was gone, leaving me alone with the wreckage of our life together. As the tears came, I felt Jill's arms wrap around me in a fierce embrace, letting me finally release the tidal wave of anger, pain, and heartbreak I had been bottling up for so long. My marriage was over. My husband lost to Candace's toxic influence. But in that moment of mourning, I found a strange sense of freedom and determination taking root. Because if Derek was too weak to stand up to his twisted sister, I would be strong enough for the both of us. Candace's evil reign of terror was finally going to end, one way or another. In the days after Derek walked out of my life for good, I found myself at a crossroads. One path led to wallowing in the ashes of my failed marriage, letting the trauma and betrayal consume me. The other, that path burned with an icy determination to make things right. "We can't let Candace just walk away from this," I told Jill, my voice hardening. "She tried to kill me, Jill, her own sister-in-law. That kind of depravity can't go unanswered." Jill nodded grimly. "You're right. For too long, that psycho has been able to slither away from the consequences she deserves. It's time we make sure the law catches up to her once and for all." With renewed purpose, we began compiling every shred of evidence we had on Candace. The financial documents, witness statements, everything. A comprehensive paper trail of her decades-long spree of greed, manipulation, and likely murder. "This should be enough to bury that snake for the rest of her miserable life," Jill said, eyeing the thick file with grim satisfaction. No more getting off easy with her crocodile tears. I felt a surge of adrenaline, my heart pounding. This was it. The first steps towards ensuring Candace could never hurt another innocent person like she almost did to me. I was finally taking my power back from her toxic reign of abuse. We took the files straight to the police precinct downtown and requested to meet with a detective. A grizzled veteran in a rumpled suit eventually came to usher us into an interview room, his eyes narrowing as he flipped through the damning evidence. "You're telling me this Candace woman has been grifting and manipulating her own family for years?" he said slowly. "Possibly even killed her first husband to inherit his money?" I nodded, holding his gaze steadily. "That's correct, detective. And her latest stunt was trying to murder me, her own sister-in-law, by bashing my skull in. She's an irredeemable psychopath who will stop at nothing to get what she wants." The cop's jaw tightened as he studied the crime scene photos, the vivid evidence of Candace's brutal attack. "I've seen a lot of low-life scumbags in my day, but this is a new level of depraved." He closed the file and fixed me with an intense look. "Ms. Jennings, I want you to know we're taking this case extremely seriously. With the mountain of proof you've brought us, we're confident we can lock this woman away for a very long time before she has a chance to hurt anyone else." A weight lifted off my shoulders, and I suddenly felt lightheaded with relief. After years of being gaslit and tormented, I was finally being heard and believed about Candace's unforgivable cruelty. "Thank you, Detective," I said, my voice wavering slightly. "You have no idea how much it means to know the law won't let her evil go unanswered this time." The cop offered a grim smile. "No thanks needed, ma'am. We're just doing our job to get a dangerous predator off the streets. You're the one who showed real courage by standing up to this Candace's abuse and not backing down." As Jill and I left the precinct, I felt a sense of peace and resolution wash over me, despite the storm clouds ahead. Candace's reign of terror was finally going to be brought to justice, no matter how much she cried or played the victim card. And in that moment, I realized my own bitter struggle had given me strength I never knew I possessed. The once meek, tormented wife was no more. I was a survivor who had risen from the ashes of Candace's twisted games to fight another day. And this time I would be the one who emerged victorious, while she got to experience the cold, hard consequences she so richly deserved.